not enough people paid attention to politics because too many people believe that politics doesn't matter. Ladies and gentlemen, I say to you today, politics matters, and it is crucial that you pay attention and that you make sure your friends are paying attention, that you make sure your family is paying attention, that you make sure your coworkers are paying attention, and that you make sure that your neighbors are paying attention to everything that's going on, to every single law that we the people are subject to. Now that I've got that out of my system. The Republicans and the Democrats in this election for state legislature here in the 14th District, one thing they like to talk about, these candidates, both the Republicans and the Democrats, they like to talk about jobs. Obviously, we all wish the job market was better. Nobody disagrees on this topic. But just what are the Republicans and the Democrats proposing as ways to create more jobs? And are they the right plans? Are they effective plans? Are they proper plans? First of all, what is contributing to the lack of jobs? Let's be honest about that. What is the cause of high unemployment? Now, if you do your research on American history, it's very clear what the cause of unemployment, high unemployment is. The cause is high, excessive, irresponsible spending and high taxes from the government. Every time. If you look at when unemployment was at its lowest, it was in the early 1950s, when taxes had been cut after World War II, and the government wasn't spending like it is today. The economy was thriving. The last time the economy truly thrived for a long time was the 1920s. From 1920 to 1930, there was no federal deficit. A lot of people were making money. Now it's true that a lot of people were over-speculating in the stock market, and that the stock market crash of 1929 had a lot to do with the Great Depression that followed. But here's what you're never told about the Great Depression. It wasn't only the stock market crash that caused the Great Depression. At the same time, as everybody was buying these stocks and speculating and being cocky and taking advantage and thinking they could just spend and not worry that it would never come back and hurt them, something else was happening. The Federal Reserve was printing a lot of money and giving it to banks and telling them, lend this money to people, put a lot of money into the economy. And now here's the problem. By the end of the 20s, the people who had been lent to by the banks couldn't pay back their loans. And the economy collapsed. That should sound familiar. It also happened in 1837 when President Andrew Jackson, after he had gotten the entire country out of debt, he's the only president to do so. Historians will tell you that because he got the country out of debt, it caused an economic crisis called the Panic of 1837. What they don't tell you is that at that time, a lot of money was being printed and it was being lent to a lot of people who couldn't pay it back because they got cocky, because they thought, oh, the president paid back our debt, the economy's great, we can spend. Let's look at another instance, and that is just recently, 2008, when the Federal Reserve printed a lot of money, gave it to a lot of banks, and told them to lend a lot of money. Let everybody get a house. But nobody could pay back their loans, nobody could pay their mortgages, and we had a crisis. So this is the truth about why we have such high unemployment. Because there's not a lot of money in our economy, because it's inflated, and because people were given money, lent money, and they couldn't pay it back. So a lot of people are in financial tough spots, and they can't get themselves out of these tough spots. And, again, the Federal Reserve continually prints money, which therefore continually devalues the money, which means we all have money that becomes more and more worthless every day. And yet we've got Democrats and Republicans telling us they're going to create jobs for us. With what money, with what means are we going to create more jobs? Okay, so that situation is one reason why we don't have jobs. Another one is Obamacare, and I talked to you about Obamacare the other day, and I'm just going to bring up these few facts about Obamacare. People who want to buy really good healthcare plans are going to be taxed 40% of how much that healthcare plan costs, which is really not going to give people a lot of incentive to buy good healthcare plans. The interesting thing is that the Obama administration was hoping that if a lot of people bought these really nice health insurance policies and paid the 40% tax, that money would go to subsidize the health insurance policies that small business owners would be giving to their employees. Well, a lot of people are not going to buy really nice health insurance policies that they cannot afford to subsidize insurance policies for small business owners. Not going to happen. Also, the issue with Obamacare is that it forces employers to offer all full-time employees healthcare benefits. Employers are so concerned about Obamacare, so confused about it, so baffled as to what the ultimate ramifications are going to be throughout the years as it is fully implemented, that if you ask yourself, if you go out on the internet and ask, why aren't companies hiring? Why are they laying off? Why do we only see an increase in part-time jobs? It's because they feel deeply uncertain and concerned about the ramifications of Obamacare. That's the reality of why we don't have a lot of jobs. Because it's really expensive to live here in the United States of America and in New Jersey. People are struggling to get themselves out of hard times, and their money is constantly devalued, so it's like useless unless they hit it rich and get really lucky. The average person doesn't. Nonetheless, the Republicans and the Democrats believe they can create jobs for us. Now, how do they propose that they can create jobs? Well, they believe they can create jobs by something they call tax incentives. What are tax incentives? Tax incentives are tax credits or tax breaks or subsidies. Really the same thing, but let me break it down for you. Let's suppose, for example, Peter Inverso is running for Senate, is a Republican candidate for Senate in this district, running against Linda Greenstein, the Democrat, and my running mate, Don DeZarn, the Independent. Now, Peter Inverso believes, he's very proud of himself because he offered tax breaks for renewable energy companies. Said if a renewable energy company comes to New Jersey, they're going to get a tax break. Doesn't that sound amazing at first? We're going to offer a whole new industry, a progressive, innovative industry. We're going to lure them to the state, and they're just going to have to pay a little bit less than everybody else. Sounds great, but wait for a second. What's wrong with this picture? What if you had a great idea, but you didn't get a tax break? Is that fair? What if I have something great to offer that could create a huge economic boom, but I'm not getting a tax credit? what about this? How come these people have to pay less taxes, but those people don't have to pay less taxes? How come my tax dollars essentially go to subsidize people in this group, even though I didn't want them to, and even though it wasn't absolutely necessary for them, for that money to go there, because I know how to spend my money better than the government does. Oh, but according to Peter and Verso, and the Democrats also believe in tax incentives to create jobs. In other words, when I say tax incentives, I don't mean a tax cut for everybody. I mean tax cuts for particular groups of people that they like. Not who we like, who they like. Does that make sense to you? After all, who are those people that they like? Do you think it just might be people who fund their elections? Well, I think that's quite possible. Do you think that maybe the government is controlling the economy through tax breaks, and it keeps them in power by doing this? Oh, I think absolutely. And this is the reality of tax incentives. And this is not the right way to create jobs. And it's not all that effective. It is not all that effective. After all, has the unemployment problem in the state of New Jersey gotten that much better because Peter and Verso created tax incentives for renewable energy companies in New Jersey? No, not at all. In fact, there are instances in which the government has subsidized renewable energy companies, and the renewable energy companies have gone out of business. Example, Solyndra. So not only is the government saying these people are going to pay less because we think they're going to make the economy better or keep us elected to office, but there's no guarantee that these people are even going to stay in business, that they're intelligent, that they're productive. There's no guarantee. And this is the worst part, ladies and gentlemen. You and I have no say whatsoever. So is this really the right answer to job creation? I think not. This is what happens when the government claims that it can create jobs. Let me tell you something. When the government claims that it can create jobs, it's lying to you. Sure, they can create jobs. They can create jobs for people who will constantly vote them in to re-elect them. But they're not going to create jobs for everybody. They're not going to make it easier for you and I to get a job. They're only going to make it easier for their friends to get jobs. So how do we make it easier for you and I to get jobs, ladies and gentlemen? First of all, where do jobs come from? Where do jobs come from? What is a job? I know that seems like a ridiculous question, but what is a job? A job is something you do, and you get paid to do it. Where should we look for jobs? Should we look to the government to offer us jobs, or should we create our own jobs? Or if we don't want to create our own jobs, should we say, this is what I want to do, I'm going to go out and get that job? I think the latter. The Republicans and the Democrats think the former. What happens if year after year we depend on the government for more and more jobs? Well, then gradually, year after year, more of us stop saying, I want that job. That thing that seems impossible to do, but I want to do it. I want to innovate. I've got an idea. Well, we would discourage that. Instead, oh, let's vote for Wayne D'Angelo because he's going to have a job for me. What's wrong with that sentence? What's wrong with that sentence is that we brood dependence. In economies where people are dependent on others, you have a weak economy. You have an economy that lacks innovation. You have an economy that lacks energy and enthusiasm. You have an economy that lacks competition. And that is always what causes an excellent, thriving economy and a ton of jobs. Jobs come from people like Thomas Edison and Henry Ford, people with big ideas who need a lot of help to make those ideas come true. Jobs come from people who have dreams and know what they want to do with their lives and go and do it, even when it seems impossible. That's where jobs come from. So that's all I've got to say for today. Just a few quick last points regarding how we get these better jobs and how we prevent bad laws from being passed so that the state of the state and the state of the country don't get worse. First, please do go to this rally to reform marijuana laws. It is this coming Sunday, September 8th, at 3 o'clock in front of the State House in Trenton, New Jersey. Don DeZarn and I will be speaking there. Next, get yourself one of these bumper stickers. In fact, get a lot of them and put them everywhere that you can get away with it. And let everybody in the 14th District see the names DeZarn and O'Connor, independents for New Jersey legislature. That's the way we're going to change the way things are run around here, ladies and gentlemen. And last, make sure you are registered to vote so that when you go to vote on November 5th, you vote for Don DeZarn for New Jersey Senate in the 14th District, and you vote for Sean O'Connor, New Jersey Assemblyman in the 14th District. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for your time. May God bless the state of New Jersey, and may God bless America.